Hey guys, we are live with another Elite Coach Live. Hope everybody is well. Thanks for joining us. For you guys that are watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. And generally let us know how things are going. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask them as we go through this, and we'll make sure we get to them. So today, guys, as always, a big part of what we do is we like to celebrate success. So a key part of that is making sure that we reach out to students and coaches who've been through our programs and who are generally going out and doing great things. So today I'm joined by a level 4 graduate, somebody who's been kind of immersed in the SCE way. So Mr. Neil Thompson, how are we doing, sir? We all good?
All good, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Really
good man, good man. So
glad to be on here finally.
Good man. Most important thing, I can see you've got a coffee in your hand, mate. So you know we're all ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, mate, it looks like you're set up in a gym, mate. Is that your own gym that you've got then, mate? Is that your own studio?
Yeah. It's my own studio. Yeah, I've got I've got a unit down at the bottom of my parents' garden. Believe it or not. The unit's had a few different uses over the years, but it's now my own personal training studio. Yeah, so I've got it rigged up to how I need it in here.
Nice, mate. Nice. That's awesome, mate. So Neil, for anybody that doesn't kind of know us, do you want to give us a bit of a background of what you currently do and what you've been in the industry, etc., etc.?
Yeah. So go back, I suppose, 2012, 2013. I would say I dropped out of sport when I was younger. I used to play a bit of football, do various bits, and as you grow up, you tend to sort of find other things that you and drop out of it. And I suppose I ended up quite unfit, a little bit out of shape, we'll say. So I ended up joining a running club, and sort of realised you're looking at sort of what's going on at this running club, and you sort of just come back into it really, and just sort of see the good that's sort of happening as people are sort of getting fitter, how I was getting fitter. And it's just sort of a case of wanting to sort of jump on board with that, and I ended up taking it as a UK athletics course at the time, coaching running fitness, which they're still running. And from there, really, it sort of snowballed on really. So I did a athletics coach course, which gave me the started working in sort of track and field. And as I'm sort of getting fitter, you sort of start picking these niggles up, and you sort of see people around you that are sort of picking niggles up. And you suddenly realise actually there's a bit more to this than sort of just the sort of simply running and just taking a part in the sport. And it's just there's a bit of a you see this moment where you think, well, there's something missing here. And as it is, you can see it's the strength and conditioning side of it, keeping yourself fit to enable yourself to keep running. And sort of with that, sort of started looking around. So that was about 2013 that I started the coaching in athletics. And so came to 2015, started doing a personal training course. Got through that and still realised there's something still missing here. There's something still not sort of something isn't clicking, and that was when sort of strength and conditioning education came in. I think I took the plunge in 2017 and qualified in 2018 with strength and conditioning education. So I did the level 4. And then went on in 2019, went on to the youth specialist qualification as well. So sort of ended up with both of those, both of which have been absolutely wonderful for sort of where I am now with it. So
nice, that, mate. Well, that's awesome. That's wasn't kind of leading you down that path anyway, but it's always great to get that shout out. So I want to go back to when you you got into running yourself and got that bug for fitness and stuff like that. So obviously you felt a bit unfit. You got involved with the local running club. What was the switch on trying to make you become a coach then? What was that sort of, actually, I want to get involved and I want to be on the other side of this?
Well, I think the main switch for me was just seeing the good they were sort of doing me. And it's not just physical, is it? It's the sort of mental well-being as well. And you see sort of good things happening. You think, actually, if I can help people feel, without sort of blowing you into, feel more like sort of I am doing. I know that it is doing them the absolute world of good. And that was my main. Sorry, I've just had a notification come up. Won't be a second. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and that was the main switch for me. Just wanting to sort of help people get fitter. Really, that's all I can say. Just with the benefits that came along with that.
Nice, mate. That's awesome, because I think it's always interesting to look at what was the trigger, and I think it was great that you've sort of honed in on the just wanting to help people, and obviously that's what we want to do as coaches, you know. So thinking about those early days now, what would you do differently, knowing what you know now? I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? You know, it's always that old adage, and we talk to young people, young athletes, and young people now. If you knew what I know now, you'd be looking at things differently. But if you could go back in time then to that when you first started doing your curve and running fitness and stuff like that, what would you sort of say to yourself? What would you reckon you would change if you could do it differently?
I would have put more of the strength working area on, just sort of thinking about the amount of niggles that were getting picked up at that time. Just all over, really, plantar fasciitis, calf strains, stuff like that. I would have straight away gone into doing some fitness work, and that'd have been the one thing that I would definitely change of that. As it was in terms of sort of weight loss and stuff, it worked wonderfully for me, and I went from at that time I would have been around 18 stone, and I've dropped. I'm now slightly heavier than what I was when I was at my sort of leanest, but I'm certainly sort of 4.5 stone lighter than that.
Wow.
But I do think that would have happened quicker if I'd been able to spend more time actually running and a bit less time on the treatment table, so to speak.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have learned over that period of time, I now go to see a sports physio every month without fail, and find that makes a huge difference as well. So I think running's good, not a really, really good exercise, but at the same time, it's mixing it up. Mixing it up is what will do you the most good.
Right, that's awesome. So obviously, with you working with these guys now, and you having that lesson of incorporating strength work and like you say, getting fit to run, everybody sort of says, "Oh, I'll run to get fit," you know. And it's interesting that you're saying, "Let's get fit to run as well," do you know?
Yeah.
So how do you sort of educate people on that then? Because obviously certain barriers is people who do running might be thinking, "Oh, weights will slow me down," or these types of things. So how do you go about educating those folk early in that piece?
It can be tough. It can be tough. People you tend to find that you do have certain camps of people, but one camp running only. You get others that strength only, and you get the odd few that are sort of sat in the middle. I think though it's probably getting easier over the last maybe even since lockdown, really, where people have sort of had a little bit more time. They have started doing a little bit more research, and they're realising the sort of the good that strength work can do. I found particularly I run some as well as sort of one-to-ones. I sort of do circuits and stuff like that, and I really use the circuits as not just as a circuit as a standalone, but more of a means of education. I can talk to people through what is happening, exactly why they're doing stuff, and then they're hearing it from me, not just from a broadcast on Facebook or something like that. And I think it's getting out there and just sort of showing the reasons why, really. And I think the thing with me, I like to give a reason why they're doing any exercise. If I can sort of explain why they're doing an exercise, that then helps sort of the uptake in people wanting to do it.
Oh, nice, mate. Nice. So, and obviously, endurance athletes, typically time is something that a lot of them don't have. They don't want to dedicate time to strength work necessarily in the early days because it's more time on the road, the bike, wherever it may be. So it's kind of like, you obviously use your circuits training there as that introductory, but what's kind of your top go-to exercises that without fail you know, implementing these guys with the runners. If you've got nothing else to do, just get this done, and this will make the biggest difference. What's kind of your go-to to bridge that gap, so to speak?
So I would work in the same way, probably the same way that, the way that you train it. I would still work on movement patterns. I would try and get a brace in there. I would try and get a hinge in there. I would try and get a squat, and I'd still do my upper body push and pull. Wouldn't worry as much if I was short of time. I'd just be looking at the sort of 3, but still just trying to get a couple of sets in of the upper body work as well. Particular favourite exercise at the moment, the hinges. Good sort of with the hinges with the RDLs. Not necessarily looking at full deadlifts, but certainly sort of Romanian deadlifts. And if I've got any chance there, I do like to try and progress those onto single leg Romanian deadlifts just for the balance element as well. And I know that if I get somebody doing one of those really well, being as sort of runners don't necessarily, like we just talked about, don't necessarily see the benefits of resistance training. If you can get somebody, show somebody what they look like when they started, and then you get them doing a really good single leg Romanian deadlift, they can actually see the difference there. Because we're really stable on one leg. We're going to be on one leg when we're running. All good. So that is the exercise I would go for, a single leg Romanian deadlift.
Nice, mate. I always like to just pick coaches' brains on that, because you always get some different answers and different rationale and different thought processes. So it's just really interesting to see your take on that, mate. So obviously another part of it is part of your coaching is not just working with runners, but you've gone through the youth pathway and you're working with some youth athletes now, mate. So you want to sort of just bring us up to speed on what does your kind of youth training programs look like now and the athletes that you're working with?
So the youth training program we've got going at the moment, so basically we're working all the way through from 6-year-olds to 18-year-olds. So we've got a big range. We've got sort of seeing the majority from once a week, but within that we've got some called splinter groups that sort of they then come into smaller groups and sort of work with me in their own right. In terms of sort of the younger athletes, all we're doing again is just looking at sort of the fun sort of side. We're looking at sort of jumps, we're looking at balance, we're looking at things like that, knowing that down the line I can then progress them on into a bit more sort of technical side of it. For example, on Tuesday I was doing some work with them on a standing long jump lap, and I was, rather than telling them to jump as far as they can, it was a case of, right, we've got a line here, I want you to jump as close to this line as possible without actually going over it. So we're teaching absorbing the landing, we're teaching stability when they land, but we're not overloading them with information as to what they have to do. They really, really enjoyed that session, and and you can tell they're laughing and stuff. They're going over the land, they're laughing, then they get a really good one, and the celebration, and stuff like that with the younger athletes. And obviously, then as we sort of move them up throughout, we're looking more sort of technical side of it, and then we're progressed on into sort of long jumps and stuff like that. One particular group that I started working with when they were 11 and now 18, and they're obviously now they're sort of into shifting a decent amount of weight. We've got sort of cleans going on, got basically can do anything, but it's just really nice to see that those patterns are being instilled from the point when they basically left primary school, and they're quite sort of proud of that group, really.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. And over that journey there, because obviously that's like a 7-year development, mate, you know, and apart from making you feel old as they get older and taller and stronger than you. So what's kind of been the biggest challenges over that 7 years? Because there's obviously a lot of development going on there, like physically and emotionally and mentally. You've got exams in there. You've got kind of, you know, just social issues going on. Sometimes they turn up great, and sometimes they look like they're about just to start smashing things and stuff like that, or you get a grunt out of them and stuff like that. What's kind of been the biggest challenges over that 7 years for those guys?
I think the times when you for a start, the biggest challenge has been lockdown. Obviously, we've had that sort of couple of years lockdown, which hasn't been easy. But I think in a lot of ways that, just in general terms, that has probably helped. Just going back to what you say about sometimes you only get a grunt. I think over the lockdown period, when you're trying to do stuff on Zoom, you're getting knack all feedback. All you're getting is somebody looking at you and you're thinking, what are they thinking? They're just looking at me blankly. Has actually really helped in that respect, because I can now stand in front of a group of athletes and knowing that sort of a 13, 14, 15-year-old is possibly just going to look at me like I'm absolutely mad, and just sort of cope with it. That's that's the one thing that sort of lockdown's done for me. And I think challenges certainly has been has been lockdown, but like you sort of said there, it's sometimes you're not getting a lot of feedback, you're not getting a lot of talking. But the good thing is that when you can then sort of look back, you can think, God, I really didn't think that session went well. But then you can sort of look back and you think, actually, they've taken on board what I said there. 3 months down the line or whenever, they're in it and they're doing the exact pattern that you were telling them to do. And you can't. It's looking at it in a long-term point of view, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing there that you've mentioned. It's not a session by session basis when it comes to that youth athletes and young people. It's saying no, it's a collective of sessions which is going to get us the result that we want at the end, right? You know, so obviously thinking about these guys now, I mean, what sort of background do they have? What sort of sports do they work in, mate? Are they a mixture of athletes or what sort of stuff do they get?
Mixture of athletes, really. I've got a couple of long jumpers in there. I've got one guy who actually doesn't take part in sport at all now, but still continues with his strength and conditioning sessions.
Oh,
and week in, week out, he's coming along and he's doing it. There's times when he sort of says, "Oh, I hate this every week. I hate this," but week after week after week, and you can see he's been doing it. You got a guy that's sort of decent cricketer. So it's a group. They're a tight knit sort of group. They've gone, in terms of their sport, have gone almost sort of separate ways as they've grown, but also they come together for the session that they're sort of doing with me. So yeah,
that's awesome, mate. So for anybody that's sort of looking to get started with these programs or kind of try and replicate what you've been doing, and it sounds like you've been doing some amazing work, mate, which is fantastic. And anybody who works with young people really does get a tip of the cap from myself, because I know how challenging it is, but I also know how rewarding it is as well. You know, it is just incredibly sort of humbling, but it's also great to see years down the line when these guys are moving really, really well. And you shared a video of these guys performing some fantastic plyometrics drills, and you can just see the progression, the physical competency there. But thinking back, if somebody's watching this call now and sort of thinking, actually, I want to replicate that, what would be your advice to those guys? What would you try and make sure that they have in place to make it succeed?
I think it's having a plan in place and just thinking, look, we're not going to make inroads initially, but if we can get these movement patterns going, if we can just keep working at it, we're going to end up in the right place. And sometimes you can be tearing your hair out. You can leave a session and you can be, God, that felt like it was absolute carnage. You can feel just didn't feel good. And I think it's just being aware that this is going to happen from time to time. You're trying to teach people new skills. You're going to be looking in one direction and somebody's going to be doing something completely opposite to what you've asked them to do over here. But it's just realising, as long as it's safe, so long as you're safe, this is going to happen. The kids at the end of the day just chill out and they'll grow with it. Yeah. I think I was talking to my wife the other day, actually, because there's something else I've sort of taken on now that I mentioned is a dry land program for swimmers. And we were talking about this the other day. We've got sort of an older group there of kids, and then we've got that have really not done. There's a couple of in there that have done a bit of dry land, and there's 15 or 16 that have done absolutely nothing. And you could sort of almost say, well, that's one of those settings where you think, oh God, this is going to be hard work. But then I've got younger groups there as well. I've got some that are just sort of 10-year-olds. And I said to my wife, the thing is that with these 10-year-olds that are coming through, if we can just get them moving nicely, by the time they come up to this older group, all this work is in place. We're all sorted. We're just going to be going straight into the session. And that's the way I'm sort of thinking through it, thinking it's all for the future. Everything is for the future, really.
That's brilliant, mate. That's brilliant. So with that long-term athletic development plan that you've kind of got in place, you know, what's the kind of key milestones for you that you look for? So say if somebody starts right at the bottom, what's kind of the non-negotiables for you in your kind of, whether it be with your group mixer athletes or your dryland athletes, kind of what's the non-negotiables for there, do you know?
So in terms of, I'm going to be looking for decent balance. I want decent balance in there. I want them to be. I want decent balance. I'm going to be looking for a decent hinge in there, but I'm going to be looking for that sort of later. I would say pre sort of 10. I'm really just looking at sort of balance. I'm looking at sort of landing mechanics, stuff like that. As they get sort of slightly older, as they get sort of into these mid groups, then I want to be looking at sort of having all these patterns in place. I want to be able to see a decent push. I want to be able to see a decent pull. I want to be able to see this hinge. I want to be able to see this good squat, like a good squat, decent overhead, good overhead squat. And I want them to be a brace. Certainly in terms of the swimmers, I want to see a very, very good sort of brace. And if I can get sort of one of the tests as they get older that I would do with sort of the swimmers would be to do sort of a minute plank, and then we'd be looking at after that for another minute doing sort of 3-point planks on different so left arm up, right arm up, right arm up, right leg up, left leg up, etc. And just be able to hold that brace position but look good while they're doing it. And I think you'd probably agree as well. The main thing is that people look good. Generally, if it looks good, it is good.
Yeah, and I think it's what I like about that is it's nailing the basics. And sometimes I think that's kind of all we need, right? I think if you get the 20% of all of the movements looking great, it covers 80% of that athletic development.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that it's just a matter of just get some good levels of movement, good levels of athleticism, and then if we can progress that, away we go. Obviously, with your swimmers and stuff, there's obviously key things that you're looking at there in terms of positions they've got to get in. So obviously, ankle range is a really important one, and obviously shoulders is a potential high risk area for injuries and stuff like that. Is there any sort of ways that you sort of build that into the session to try and get the guys on board, or is there ways that you just kind of sneak it in there and stuff so you can make sure you cover those off so the sessions are still fun?
Yeah, so it's really sort of once again for the old one, sort of talking through exactly why they're sort of doing this stuff. Talking about sort of external rotation. So you can the other ones you can talk to them a bit more sort of like adults, educate them, because they all know people that are out in the pool because they've got sort of shoulder niggles and I think the majority have probably had shoulder niggles at one time or another. So with the older ones, you can relate to that. With the younger ones, as you say, it's just more about making it fun and doing stuff like sort of monster walks, doing stuff as we get older. The other thing that we'll look at is sort of squats and stuff for and long jumps, for starts, etc. So once again, it's sort of putting stuff like this in when they're younger, not necessarily explaining this is going to X because I want you to get off the blocks at whatever velocity, but getting them started with it and then that's what we'll talk about as they get a little bit older. So turning stuff into games, really.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that we've sort of done with SCE in terms of sort of balance drills, where you're sort of trying to tap on the shoulder and stuff like that, which you wouldn't think necessarily it's massive to do with swimming, but it's to do with bracing, and it's to do with balance, and it's to do, at the end of the day, you're keeping the kids engaged, and that is massive at that age.
Yeah, and I think the more that they get exposure to that, the more they do it, the more they see the transfer into the pool. And like you say, they're having fun, and it's something that they want to do. And if they're wanting to do the exercise, they're more likely to adhere to it and stay around for a longer time and embrace the journey as well, you know? So
absolutely.
Obviously, with that, is it being the kind of the local swim coaches have reached out to you, or have you kind of reached out to the local club and stuff like that to get in touch with
in terms of the swimming, both my children swim. So I've got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, and both of them sort of swim at a decent standard. So that was sort of a case. I sort of went to them and said, "Well, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Would you be interested in doing some sessions?" And they were pretty keen, we'll say. So that's all good. But it's with that, as I say, I've just been sort of given a budget to rig up for the club, and we've got some decent kits together now. We've got sort of TRXs, we've got all our bands, we've got the mini bands, slam balls. So they've been really good, actually, giving us a budget, saying get whatever you need, and we'll work with that. So yeah, I think one of the little bugbears was at the leisure centre that we work at. They've got a room full of all this kit. They've got TRX in there, they've got slam balls in there, but they won't let us use any of it. So we've had to sort of buy all our own to do so.
Oh, mate, it's all about working with the environment you've got. You always get those challenges and stuff. So
you do, absolutely.
That's absolutely awesome, mate. So you've got the dryland training program going on. You've got your multi-sports youth athlete programs going on. You've got your one-to-ones, mate. Like, obviously, there's a lot going on there. So kind of what's the long-term plan now? What's the goal that you're sort of striving towards?
So I think probably, obviously, is continuing my sort of education as well, and continuing what I'm doing. But I think down the line, I've got a history in catering, going back a number of years. I've got a history in catering, and I was always used to working a lot of hours. And you can probably see by the amount I've got going on there, I probably am still working a lot of hours. Some would say probably too many. So I think probably down the line, it'd be nice to concentrate more on the sports side of it, and you tend to have probably clearer goals when you with sort of the sports side of it, and I think that would be sort of down the line as we're going. It'd be sort of looking at sort of moving more solely into the sports side of it, but we'll see how we go. At the end of the day, I've got a sort of good business going. I've got some sort of very, very good clients, and it's just yeah. I'm happy as I am for the time being. Probably as we move on there, as I say, just probably a few less hours would be nice.
Yeah, mate, it sounds like you're in a good place, though, mate. It sounds like you're doing some really good stuff and making a really good impact, which is one, really important, but two, it sounds like you're doing some like great work and exciting work and stuff that you're enjoying, mate. So it doesn't really sound like it's a chore or a labor and stuff, do you know, which is fantastic, do you know, because you're talking, without making you feel old, mate, it would be coming up to nearly 10 years now since you've done your curve and stuff like that. It's a decade of experience, mate. God, that doesn't make you feel old at all, does it?
It is, and it's funny actually. I was talking to sort of about this before, and I think just going back to my initial sort of care, I think I always used to be nervous in front of people. It really was my thing, that I'd have all this stuff that I sort of wanted to talk about, and then as soon as I got in front of people, that was it. I just sort of forget where I was at, sort of thing. And sort of talking to Mary about it and talk about going on here really. And I said, it's funny, I've realised that the way I sort of really progressed is if I've got something that I think, oh, I'm not sure about this is going to be tough, I plan something tougher after it. And if I plan something tougher after it, that then becomes easy. That's me. That's my philosophy, and it works like that. And you know, once again, sort of going back to sort of lockdown and sort of nerves talking in front of people, I think that is something else that has really, really helped. When you got a screen full of people on Zoom, and you can just sort of chat away to them and sort of not really get any feedback. I think that has really, really helped sort of progress. It was something. You know, if I'd tried to speak in front of 20 people or on something like this going back 10 years, I'd have struggled. I'd have been a quivering wreck, I think.
That's awesome, mate. I think that's an important thing that hopefully people are taking away from this call is you don't have to be this outgoing, know-it-all coach who's really bubbly at the beginning. You get some people who do it naturally, but if you're sort of watching this call now thinking, I could never do that because I feel a bit of an introvert or I feel a bit awkward in front of people, I think you're a great success story there. The fact that you've been there, you've done it, you've got started in coaching and followed your passion, and you haven't allowed your kind of the quivering wreck, as you said, like hold you back. But it's took you like a decade to master it almost, and you're still keeping on developing and stuff like that as well. So as much as we want everything right now, I think the fact that we started off with the curve and started doing more personal training sessions and then went into the strength and conditioning, then the youth, and now you've got some really exciting programs. I think it shows that actually sometimes to get to where you want to be, you have to zigzag your way forward. And we've used this one many a time, but I think your story there really does highlight that getting started, you don't have to be the finished product. Far from it. There's probably sessions, and I do it as well, where you look back and you go, oh man, did I really think like that? Did I really do that session? Did I really say that? We all have that, but I think the fact that you're still here and developing is fantastic, Neil. So that's absolutely amazing. So in terms of, obviously, you've got your programs. You keep, obviously, you'd like to reduce your hours a little bit less and stuff like that. But taking on what you've learned over the past 10 years now, what's kind of been the biggest standout learnings for you in that time? Not necessarily technical, but times of coach learnings of like, right, that was a big turning point for me.
Let me have a think. Just think my way through this one.
It's a tough one, mate. It's a tough one, and the reason why I asked that is because I think sometimes we just get caught up in the doing. But I think sometimes when you think back, you go, actually, that was a turning point for me. And I'll use one of my examples just to give you a bit more thinking time, mate. It was 2015, late 2014, late 2015, when I was getting really frustrated with not being able to get the results that I wanted to get or do what I wanted to do, which led me down a path of going into the world of S&C and start looking at more performance-based trading and stuff. So I always look back, and that's a key turning point for myself. So because it's good to pinpoint and go, actually, I don't want to feel like that again. I don't want to feel frustrated and feel like I'm not delivering the best I possibly can for the people that I'm working with, right? So it'd be interesting to see if you got any sort of moments like that within your, and you might say, nah, mate, it's been a breeze.
It's certainly not been a breeze. Certainly not been a breeze. Certainly not been a breeze. And I know a lot of sort of strength and condition education call at the moment, but I do think doing the just getting onto these. I think I did probably a couple of years before I did the level 4, maybe a year before. I did a UKSTA 1-day course in Nottingham, and that was really probably the first time I'd done any sort of barbell work. And I think it was picking up a barbell and just realising quite how sort of weak I was in that respect. It was just sort of, I was a runner, and trying to probably couldn't get a 20-kilo barbell over my head. And it's sort of think, we need to be stronger than this. We need to be stronger than this, really. And I think sort of realising right, we not only me, it's not just me that needs to be stronger, but people around me sort of need to be stronger than this as well. And I think that was probably more where I thought, right, we're going to have to get some decent sort of quality S&C cracking around this sort of area, really. Yeah. But something else I've done actually, which has done wonders for my confidence, and this is a big thank you to them. I do a visually impaired session as well now once a week, working with visually impaired athletes, and I've learned a hell of a lot from that as well. And in terms of my confidence, knowing that I can go into a room and sort of teach strength and conditioning to sort of people that partially sighted and totally sort of blind athletes has actually really helped my confidence. It's helped them a lot. They're sort of doing stuff that we never expected. I never expected to be doing sort of by now. We've been doing this for 9 months, but certainly in terms of sort of my development, realizing that actually capable of sort of coaching that side of it as well has been a massive bonus for me as well.
Nice, but that's awesome, mate. And I'm going to chuck an extra question in there. So obviously you're talking about the visually impaired athletes and stuff, and you're saying it's built your confidence. So with those guys, obviously there's a lot of adaptation. There's lots of things that was like a massive steep learning curve in the beginning. I bet you were thinking, right, we'll do this. Actually, no, we can't do that. Or I'll say this, and actually, no, I can't say that. So what's been the biggest kind of change to your coaching when it comes to the working with the visually impaired athletes?
Being very descriptive, being very, very descriptive, and realising that because obviously the first thing you would do would sort of describe and then a demonstration, and realising that actually I'm not going to be able to do a demonstration on this exercise. This is going to have to be sort of done totally by totally vocally. And I think probably watching somebody and just being able to sort of talk about how they're moving, if you're with me, so I've just absolutely guiding them through movements rather than sort of standing back and saying this is what you're going to do. It's a completely different way of sort of thinking things. But once you do, how they take it up is absolutely fantastic. They've been so good at taking up these movement patterns just through sort of description.
That's awesome, mate. That's really, really cool. I've got massive amount of respect, and I can imagine that is a challenging, but again, another rewarding environment. Yeah. You certainly don't make life easy for yourself, mate, with your coaching and with the youth athletes, the runners, trying to get them stronger, and then working with the visually impaired, mate. You're certainly a man who rises up to a challenge in coaching, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, mate, I've took loads of your time there, mate. So for any last little bit for anybody out there who's watching who might be on the start of their journey or looking to start a new project or potentially getting into coaching, what would be kind of your bit of advice and to help them guide them through that? What would you sort of recommend?
You still hear me?
Yeah, I got you, mate. I got you.
Yeah, cool. It's got to, I think, first of all, sort of looking at sort of qualifications and just and just realizing that has to just be the first part of the journey. There's, you know, you do your level 3, and if you think, right, I passed that, that is just literally the very, 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 very tip of the iceberg. It's continued development, and it's over a long period of time. I'd really big up these, once again, sort of advertisement entry like that, but I would really sort of big up these level 4 courses. Met some brilliant people doing them. A couple of, I think, have since moved on. The tutors have since moved on, but met some brilliant people through the courses. And yeah, just keep learning, be open-minded, keep learning, and keep challenging yourself.
That's awesome, mate. That's awesome. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, mate. And thanks for sharing your story. I think it's definitely an inspiring one, as much as sometimes we just go through the motions and think, yeah, this is what I do. There's probably people on there that think, yeah, that's really cool. And hopefully it's inspired them to go and do what they want to do off their own back of it. So thanks very much for sharing that, mate. It's much appreciated. So guys, if you've got any questions at all, please do drop them into the comment section and share a bit of love for Neil. Hopefully you've taken a lot of good information away from what Neil shared there. So, but until next time, guys, have a great one. Reach out if you need us. As always, SCE is a company that is trying to help all of the coaches in the industry move forward to becoming the coaches that they want to become. So, and again, Neil, a massive thank you for sharing your story, mate. And we'll catch up again very, very soon.